Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the Board of Education meeting for which adequate notice under the Open Public Meetings Act was provided by written notice on September 11th, 2020 to the Courier News, the Echo Sentinel, the Star Ledger, Tappan to Warren, and the clerks of the Borough of Watchung and the Township of Greenbrook, Long Hill, and Warren. Roll call, please, Mr. Stiles.
Dr. Chand?
Gotta unmute, Nourish.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. Hayek?
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Ms. Sober?
Here.
Ms. Potter?
Yes.
Dr. Shabilsky?
Here.
Ms. Raban? And Ms. Brown?
Here. Can everyone please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And may I have a motion to go into executive session in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act? Be it hereby resolved that the board move into executive session to discuss confidential personnel and legal matters, student and staff safety and security, WHREA sidebar, and the CSA evaluation, after which action may be taken. It is expected that the matters discussed in an executive session will be made public as soon as the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, so what are we doing? We're staying here?
Yes.
Okay. So the next portion of our agenda is board correspondence. We did get some emails regarding co-curriculars and what's on the agenda about co-curriculars. That'll be addressed through superintendent's comments and our committee reports. So I guess we'll move into superintendent's comments.
Okay, good evening, everyone. For all of those of you that are watching us from the comfort of your home live streamed and from those of you that joined us here tonight. So there are a couple of things I want to report on. The first one has to do with our co-curricular clubs and advisors. So I apologize to the students who have been caused unnecessary distress and anxiety, thinking that we are not going to be approving club advisors to move forward for this year. All of our clubs that have been board approved, those get board approved at their inception, and what we do each year is we approve faculty advisors to oversee those clubs. And it seems that there's been some misinformation spread about what our intentions are with the club, so I'm hoping that I can clarify that tonight, and I know some of our board members will be speaking to this as well, because this was a topic we spent a significant amount of time on last week in our committee meetings. So the list of co-curricular advisors on tonight's board agenda for approval is just our first wave of approvals. As everyone knows, this is a very unusual school year, which we are only in the second week of. And so we are trying to very carefully and thoughtfully move forward with planning for the school year for what will be a lot of many non-traditional events and activities. The board and administration's goal is to get as many clubs up and running as possible. For many of the clubs governed by overarching organizations, robotics being one of them, and I know we've received some correspondence about that, we're awaiting additional guidelines on what the season will look like. And this is true for a lot of our clubs that are governed by overarching organizations and have competitions. Robotics, for example, has announced that they are going to have their culminating competitions, but instead of those being in April, as they generally are, they're going to be over the summer. So there's something right away that we need to make sure that before we approve advisors for those positions, we want to make sure that they're available and willing to oversee those events over the summer, because we don't want to shortchange the students, and we want to make sure that that the new version of the season we're able to actually follow through on taking the students through that. And if there are less competitions for some of these clubs, we have, we talked to the advisors about the fact that we want to work collaboratively with them to develop a plan for what a non-traditional season will look like, so that the students still get as meaningful of an experience as possible, even if it doesn't look like what their traditional season looks like. So these were all the conversations we had. This was what was communicated to the advisors. So again, I apologize for any misinformation that was put out there. And so we are looking to approve more clubs in the coming weeks. as the board continues to evaluate them at our committee meetings, and as the administration works with the advisors to outline what the expectations will be for the students. So I know, I got an email that 85% of our clubs had been canceled. No clubs have been canceled, I can tell you that. It is possible that, that some particular clubs in the end could end up not running for various reasons. That is not our plan right now. For example, some of the other club advisors that are not on there for approval are simply because we're trying to fill vacancies, and we don't have staff who applied for those positions. That happens with coaching positions, it happens with teaching positions. So our goal is to get all of these, as many of these clubs as possible, up and running, and to do it in a timely manner. But I do ask for your patience, as this is obviously a very different year than usual. And a lot of our clubs do not start immediately in September anyway. A lot of them, the competitions and the practices for them and the preparation do not start till later in the fall, and in some cases even in the winter. So we are working diligently towards that. I can assure you, and I know the board members will speak to this later, that we all have the same goal, and we are trying to provide as many, for lack of a better term, normal experiences for our students during a very abnormal year. It's just we may not be able to provide those in the ways that we have in the past. So we want to be very thoughtful about how we structure those to make sure that the students get a meaningful experience. And in some cases, they may get an enhanced experience because of the creative ways that they figure out how to run these clubs and activities. So that is our goal, and I hope that this clears up any miscommunication about the board and the administration's goals with regard to co-curricular clubs and activities. But I can assure you that is our collective goal. I also did want to update the board and the public on our mascot exploration committee, which we had discussed, I think it was back in July. So the first meeting for that committee is going to be on Thursday, September 24th at 6 p.m. There are approximately 35 members of that committee. I did receive a lot of interest in serving on it, and I tried to accommodate as many of those requests as I could, because obviously we want representation from a number of different groups, but I did have a lot of students and alum express interest in participating, so I tried to get representation from the different towns, from the different grade levels, from different years of graduation. And for those who are not able to, who I was not able to include on the committee, because 35 is already a rather large number, and making it even larger is sometimes not conducive to discussion. But the plan is to then have an open forum at some point where the committee can share what they have discussed, and that way anyone else who was not part of it will be able to share their input and feedback. And the purpose of this is to provide an open forum at the committee level, and then at a wider community-wide level, for the board and administration to gather feedback and input to inform us when making our decision regarding all of the logos and names associated with representing the school. So everything from Warrior to the Warrior head mascot to our Arrowhead as the name for our publication. So we will be looking at all of those things, and that's why we want to get a chance, provide an opportunity for the members of our community to provide their feedback, so that we have all of that information when making the decision. And for the committee meeting, I do have several people that are going to be sharing research that they have done. One of our alum, Brigida Shabilsky, who was a member when she was here of our Student Diversity Club, presented to them on this, and is willing to share that with the committee. And we have a few other folks as well who have done some research and are going to share. And we have people representing diverse perspectives on this issue on the committee, so that we will hear all perspectives and opinions, all of which will be valued and listened to and considered. We also, this past Saturday, just as an update, we have never actually offered the ACT at Watchung Hills before. However, our Director of Guidance, Mr. Sabino, worked very diligently, as it wasn't easy to get them to respond in the midst of all of this going on over the summer, but we were able to provide an opportunity for our students to take the ACT here on Saturday, and we had close to 90 students. There were a few registration glitches, but even the students who showed up that had issues, we were able to to accommodate them. So it was a very successful day, and I know the students and the parents were very appreciative. And so I commend Mr. Sabino as well as a number of members of our administration that came on Saturday to help with the administration of the test. So again, something else that we were able to get underway, and we're offering the SAT on October 3rd, so that's coming up as well. I do believe that is everything I have in my update. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just wanted to, brief comments to commend the administration, the staff, the students, and the parents for a successful opening of school. I think that all the work that we put in over the summer and the feedback we got through public comment from the teachers and parents allowed us to increase those professional development days in the beginning of the school year. I think that that really helped to put everybody, get everybody educated on all the different protocols. And I am hoping that we continue moving forward. And I think that, just anecdotally hearing students about coming back, I think they are happy to be here. And I'm hopeful that our learning experience this year will be meaningful for them, and we can get them the education that they deserve. So those are my comments for today. How about the business administrator's comments?
Yeah, just an update on the construction. They've painted the walls and the ceilings. They're starting to put up part of the ceiling, the fancy ceiling lights and the fixtures. It is starting to look more like a finished room. It is still on schedule, and so far it's going very well. And then the other thing I just wanted to touch base on, I just wanted to thank, our food service has been a monumental challenge. There's no question. And one of the things we have to do is we have to have food delivered, and we've worked almost last minute with the township OEM, Jane Ash, and they have volunteers bringing food to youngsters, our youngsters, and some of the K-8 youngsters as well. And I can't tell you how much we appreciate what they do. They're volunteers, and it's amazing that they did it that quickly and got together enough folks to do that for us. So a big thank you for them.
Thank you, Tim.
And that's it.
All right, so committee reports. First up, I have education.
The Education Committee met on September 9th in the afternoon. The first topic was athletics and co-curriculars. Mr. Root provided an update on the fall sports, which started just this week on the 14th. He provided an overview of the current procedures and guidelines being followed by the coaches and student athletes. And the committee discussed the contact sports, utilization of masks, and the protocols for attendance at games, as well as protocols for sharing information between teams in advance of competition. We then also discussed the co-curriculars, which Ms. Jewett just addressed in her remarks. But we did talk about the guidelines and the requirements for the co-curricular clubs and advisors. We went through each of the groupings on those that would be able to be approved at this meeting, that are on the agenda, those that are in need of advisors still, those that have some other issues, such as governing bodies needing to provide additional information, and then some that are going to be running later on in the year that'll run more likely in the spring. The committee discussed all the various clubs, and we're working to move forward to identify as many of the advisors as we can. And I want to reiterate what Dr. Jewett mentioned was the fact that we made a commitment in that meeting that we wanted to do everything that we could to get these programs operational as quickly as possible, following all of the guidelines and everything that we needed to attend to. We also addressed home instruction regulation. We had to make some revisions which now allow the district to provide more remote instruction by a certified staff member in the event the need arises due to health condition. The committee discussed the revisions and supports the superintendent's issuing of the revised regulations. We discussed staffing and class coverage and EduSeer. We heard about employees currently out on leave and the coverage through leave replacement teachers and point 2 coverage by some of the staff members. We also discussed the utilization of EduSeer for French for those classes where French teachers were not available. AP French will be taught by a teacher remotely. We then also addressed virtual afternoons. Dr. Jewett explained that the WHREA has agreed to a sidebar that is on the agenda for this evening, which talks about the virtual classrooms and the time and how that will be utilized for extra help for students, meeting with co-curricular clubs, IEP meetings, student counselor meetings, professional development, and collaboration. We spent a little bit of time talking about the opening day presentations and professional development, as well as discuss the professional development provided to staff on technology during those opening days and the enhancements in new software that's been made available to the faculty and the troubleshooting and remediation that they're doing for the various issues. Finally, we talked about virtual and in-person attendance coding, that they're using a new code in Genesis so that they can identify a student who is absent but attending virtually to have us have better accountability for the different levels of attendance. So that's the committee report. Are there any comments from any of the other committee members? The one thing that I do want to address is that I was really surprised after we met on Thursday that on Friday evening I started hearing rumblings about the fact that for some reason the board and the administration had canceled a majority of the co-curricular activities. As a result, some of our students rightfully became upset. The problem is this was never true. The board and the administration has been working way beyond capacity in order to address all the various changes that we have to make to get our building open safely for our students and for our faculty. Everyone on this board is committed to finding ways to bring back as much normalcy as we can in this environment, and we're committed to bringing back all the co-curriculars and athletics as we are able in this environment. So the fact that the position of this board has been so blatantly misrepresented to students and shared on social media posts in this environment is beyond me. It is mind-boggling, unprofessional, and completely uncalled for. I've been a member of this board for 3 terms, and I have never been so disappointed as I am for the way that our students were needlessly upset because of some unknown adult agenda. And I would hope that this activity comes to an end. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Bob. All right, we have personnel next. Susan?
So the Personnel Committee also met on September 9th, and we discussed the C items on tonight's agenda, which includes a list of salary adjustments for teachers who've completed advanced degrees, as well as salary revisions for teachers who will be teaching additional class sections. We also reviewed a pretty long list of leaves of absence. Not all are FFCRA related, but many were. And we also are including, which also included 5 mid-year retirements. Joan Maynor of the Child Study Team, Nancy Fishgrund, who's an instructional aide, Patricia Busby, who teaches family and consumer science, Lucy Doherty, who's one of our secretaries, and William Mulligan, who teaches wood arts. And we'd like to thank them for their many years of service, and we will be honoring them at our June board meeting. We also discussed co-curriculars, especially from the perspective of advisors and approving the advisors, and which clubs still need advisors. And we also, as a committee, are very committed to getting as many clubs as possible up and running as soon as possible. We all agree how important that is for a successful school year for our students, and we're looking forward to seeing more approvals in the coming weeks. I'm also just going to do a little editorial comment just to say, please be careful what information you choose to see as fact. I regularly watch the Watchung Hills Regional High School parent and student Facebook group because I like to know what's going on out there, positive and negative. But people post on there with such authority, and that does not come from this school. There are parents, mostly, some students, who have opinions that aren't necessarily fact. One of the things I read was about the guidelines. It says the clubs and teacher advisors were given guidelines to run these clubs, including no meetings before school, no meetings directly after school, no virtual meetings, students from different cohorts must meet together, and late busing for these clubs is not provided. That's not true, so please just take it with a grain of salt. Those social media posts are opinion, not fact, and if you're looking for information, come directly to the school.
Thank you, Susan. All right, operations. So Peter can do that from virtual, right?
And just so those of you who are on Zoom, the board members that are on Zoom, when you speak, you will actually be live streamed to the feed that the folks at home are seeing. So just so you're aware of that. Peter, I think you are muted.
I've asked Greg to I've asked Greg to give the report just because I'm at the point where I'm jumping up and down.
As Peter needs to step away temporarily, I'll be happy to give the report. The Operations Committee met on September 3rd. A large part of our discussion was regarding the HVAC system, and under Mr. Stei's guidance, testing was implemented, sampling areas that would be essentially representative of the type of airflow that would be seen in different categories. So that testing was done over a period of time, and we got a report of the testing. The parameters included closed windows and dampers open at 30%, which is not the maximum that can be done, but would be a typical scenario in weather in which the windows would not be open. And we learned that all but 2 of the rooms tested within standards, most substantially exceeding the specifications of the system, and simply increasing flow with opening dampers in the 2 rooms that were close would allow them to abate specifications as well. The committee discussed the cost of that, the cost of additionally testing every single room, and felt that because these were representative of the different types of rooms throughout the school, and that a substantial number were tested already anyway, that it didn't make sense to spend even more money testing to get similar answers. We did have a discussion about the ionic bipolar ionization, and we got more information about that, obviously, a little bit earlier tonight to supplement our initial inquiries in that. We also talked about the benefits and risks of wide open windows and wide open dampers and what that does to the HVAC system. We also learned, not only at that meeting, but earlier tonight, about the limits of the filtration system, but the filters that we have currently are the specifications for the system, and the Operations Committee was exploring ways that we can maximize the safety in the school, and the bipolar ionization was one of the things that came out of out of that discussion. In addition, let me see what else we talked about.
The bond thing, or was that last?
The bond was towards the end of that, and that is on the agenda. I want to make sure that I've covered fundamentally the HVAC information. There was some discussion in the committee about repeat testing and whether there are any sort of portable systems to be able to do that and how expensive they are. But I think that fundamentally addresses the HVAC category that we discussed about. In terms of bond refunding, this is something that is, if I recall, on the agenda. And fundamentally, we were told that by Phoenix Advisors, who we hire as professionals, that we have an opportunity to save money and in fact, refund money on 2 years of our bonds. I believe it was 2011 and 2012. Essentially, there were changes in a law that prevented premature refunding of non-taxable bonds, but things are so favorable from an interest rate perspective now that even taxable bonds are a consideration. And as long as there is at least a 3% or better benefit, which is what we would see for the 2011 and 2012 bonds, that their recommendation is that we would refund it, and that would bring a savings of $1.2 million, which is a recommendation of the committee to proceed with. That concludes, I think, the bulk of the committee meeting. If anybody has any questions or any committee members want to add to that, and then after that discussion happens, there's something else that I'd like to say about the HVAC system.
Greg, let me add one thing, and that is that at the Operations Committee meeting, we did not come up with a clear recommendation to the board regarding whether to spend the additional approximately $10,000 that it would cost to test the remaining classrooms that weren't tested. There was an extensive discussion about the fact that we had not only tested representative rooms, but in addition to representative rooms, we had opened it up twice to the association to suggest additional rooms, and all of those were included in the testing that was done and completed, which covers about 35% of our rooms, but we think representatively deals with all of them. We do have this, there was a request made that we consider spending the additional $10,000 to test all the rooms. Some members of the committee felt that, it was unnecessary to spend that, and other members, wanted to bring it to the entire board so the board can have a discussion as to whether or not it wants to pay, an additional amount to get additional rooms tested on that.
So Peter, I would like to add something here.
Go ahead.
As I mentioned that while at the meeting, I did order the little tool. It arrived, and I measured, everywhere. So I was wondering is that the room which have been tested, you could use this to see what reading it gives and compare it with the other rooms. So this unit cost me $60. I would be happy to donate to the school, and the school can just try it and see, what results you get. Because this unit is almost free, and you could use because we already have the standard, right? I mean, this unit comes also fully tested, calibrated, right? But we have the standard, rooms have been tested, we know what kind of flow they have. So use this, measure the flow with this, and then go to the untested rooms and see what you measure it, so that we can see, things are normal or abnormal. So as a rough measure, you could get the idea without spending those $10,000.
Yeah, so we discussed that in the committee meeting, and that issue, the concern from a lot of the committee members and the HVAC professionals was that using that type of device, you also need to have the expertise and know the math and to actually get correct information. So I think most of the committee members felt, at least my memory is that allowing the expert do who conducted the tests on the 35% of the rooms with the balancer, which is a totally different piece of equipment, was appropriate. I also wanted to add, and I think this came from our, when they chose the rooms to look at, they chose the rooms that would, their conservative choices, meaning that they chose rooms that they thought not only were representative of other rooms in a area, but also were rooms that were maybe not going to be the best airflow, to make sure that we were getting accurate, or at least the worst case scenario kind of information. And again, the report did show that we, other than 2 rooms, which I'm assuming are going to get remediated if they haven't been already, were exceeding the specifications for the HVAC system. So, Mr. Chan, this device that you're bringing up, I think the recommendation from the committee was we're better off keeping ourselves with the experts and allowing the experts to do this and not becoming HVAC experts ourselves. But we thank you for your your input on that.
I think there was no decision, but this is a do-it-yourself unit. It's fairly simple. Everything comes out on the screen. There's really, you don't require rocket science here. The idea is that at a rough measurement, you could check it. Facility people just take it to different rooms and see how the things are there before we commit.
Naresh, there's also a concern about creating additional data points. And if we use this unit and we get measurements that are different, which ones are we standing behind and which ones are we relying upon? The ones that we had our experts do, or these, and are we just creating more questions with doing this as opposed to getting more confirmation? And Rita, I just wanted to correct one thing that you said.
Yep.
The 2 rooms that were close did exceed the specifications for what was necessary, but they were close. They didn't exceed it by as much as the other rooms. It was not that they did not meet the specifications.
Thank you, Peter.
I have something to say. I can't imagine that the rest of the rooms that weren't tested will be a lot different than the ones that were tested. That's why they chose the rooms they chose as a representative. And unless our system is really acting weird, they're all going to be within the same range. There's no reason to test every room. That's all I have to say.
So since Peter was talking about a consensus on that issue, can we just open that up to board discussion and get that one done first? Does anybody else have any questions or comments regarding that issue in particular about, and do we have a consensus one way or another as to whether or not we want to test the other rooms? I think the committee was leaning towards, and clearly what we're hearing from other members is not to test other rooms. People who aren't in the operations committee, I don't know what you feel about that. Anybody?
Based on what I'm hearing, I don't feel there is a need to test additional rooms. If we tested the, worst case scenario rooms, then we're fine. So I'm aligned.
Freddie, do you feel any different?
Yeah, I agree.
You agree? Okay. How about over there?
Yeah, considering they particularly tested some of the rooms that were of greatest concern along with the representative sample, I'm comfortable.
Okay. Comfortable? Comfortable? Okay. So I think we have a consensus on that now. Right. So I know you wanted to say something else.
Sure, and it's a little bit out of order, and I've communicated with Peter a little bit, and part of the reason that it's a little bit out of order is the fact that we only got the additional information tonight that we were seeking, but rather than putting off to a future committee meeting, I thought it might be useful to tie the loose ends of this report was to have a board discussion about whether we should empower Mr. Stiles to develop a request for proposal for the bipolar ionization with options that would include the vendor installing everything, the vendor only installing the things that we're not comfortable installing ourselves as an alternative bid. Obviously, we don't have to act on the bid if in the end we find that to be prohibitively expensive, but it looks like our preliminary estimates are something that I think for a long-term strategy, not just for COVID, but all infectious material that can circulate at any time of year. This is a way that we can enhance our system safety in a cost-effective way that doesn't require replacement of any of the systems and has a longevity that I think shows its value. So that would be a personal recommendation, and if we could have a board discussion about that, so that if we do have that consensus or majority, that we can empower Tim to get that started so we can implement it as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest concern was because I was trying to get some sort of articles on it, Mr. Stice told me a little bit about what he was finding. I did a little bit of research myself. I mean, there's definitely papers out there about the effectiveness for influenza and bacteria. Obviously, we don't have the information about this type of virus, and we're never going to have that in the time period that we want to try to implement these things, obviously. I was concerned about the ozone issue. If, I don't want to cause any more problems by putting in another system. If that can be assured that there's no increase in ozone through this kind of a system, and we can start the process, while school is in session, I don't have any problem with empowering Mr. Stice to move forward with, at the very least, the univents. And so what I'm a little unclear about is whether or not you would need, if you were using the cooperative pricing to get the actual product for the univents, does that require a bid?
I don't know. I've been told that they do have some via cooperative contracts,
Okay,
but I haven't done the research myself, so
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. I just know, I've talked to a few people who said, yeah, I got them from here, I got them from this one, but I just want to do the research myself.
okay.
But Rita, to answer your question, if they are on the cooperative contracts, then we don't have to bid them.
Okay, because the HVAC guys seem to suggest that if they were over the bid limit, you would still have to.
Yeah, it's all about, again, it depends on what the cost, what the cost per unit is, how many units we're getting.
Okay,
So there's ways, I mean, I can kind of.
there's ways for you to do that maybe?
Right,
Okay.
there's ways I can
Because we know
work
that
through it.
bidding would take more time.
Correct.
But we
Bidding will take longer.
we can't go against the local public contract law either, so.
That's
okay.
correct, yes. Yeah, and just by way of explanation, I guess to the public, 'cause I don't know if we've had that discussion, just a real brief discussion of the bipolar ionization are units that are attached to either univents or heating or rooftop units that release ions, as a hydrogen ions in the air.
Describing what
And the idea is they attack bacterial and viruses and things like dust mites and pollen. So it's more universal, but there is some discussion about their effectiveness with COVID-19 virus. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to stop it, obviously, because we could cough on each other right now, and if I had COVID and she, I could give it to her. So that could happen, but that's a different scenario. With the heating and ventilating unit, this is a good approach, a very solid approach to try to mitigate some of that.
Okay. So anybody else have any thoughts, questions on bipolarization? Because I think the only thing we're really talking about now is if there's a consensus, Mr. Stice can go back and get more information from the cooperative, if there's a cooperative pricing that we could do and come back to either the operations committee, I guess, would be the next step. And if there's nothing that needs to be board approved, then you could just move forward with the consensus.
Yeah, and I just want to make a comment. I completely support going out there for RFP. Getting more education and information is never a bad thing, but I would also behoove us to just get more information to make sure that we're fully educated on what it does protect us, what it doesn't protect us, the true incremental benefit. I know nothing about this technology. I've also tried to Google, oh my God, just to try to educate, and there's a lot of discrepancies out there. Again, no knowledge whatsoever, don't want to pretend. Let's just get educated by the experts and have our eyes open in terms of what we're spending money on.
Yeah, I would agree. It'd be good to get more information and look at the data.
Yep.
So I support Dr. Shabilsky's recommendation.
Yes, it's too early to take a decision. There is not enough information. And the cost also, many times you can buy the same thing with better quality at significantly lower price. So I think somebody has to do the research from different sources. If you go through a third party, then you are just stuck to that. Whatever they say, you go for it.
Yeah, that's what the cooperative pricing is all about. That's why we belong to those entities, in order to get good pricing on products.
Right.
What do you mean by corporate pricing?
Mr. Stiles, can you explain just cooperative pricing real
So,
quick?
so cooperative pricing, what that is, Naresh, is it's a group bidding is what it is. So like entities like ourselves and 5 and 30 or 40 and different other school districts combine our resources and we
But he did not say anything that he is installing in any other school, right? So there is no corporate pricing so far.
No, it's competitive.
He had no data. He had no data to give us.
No, I don't have
It's
anything.
not corporate pricing, it's the cooperative pricing, Naresh.
Right,
That's our buying method.
Yeah, that could be, but I'm just saying that many times you can buy something better and at significantly lower price. That's what I'm saying, that somebody has to do independent research.
Right,
Yeah.
that's Mr. Stiles' job, to try to get us the best price.
Yes, that we do, and we also have to comply with public bid laws too. That's not, you got to be careful with that.
Okay, Bob?
So I certainly support the recommendation for Mr. Stiles. Obviously, how we handle ventilation is one of the keys to how we mitigate this issue. So anything that we can do to improve the mitigation, I fully support.
Agreed. Anybody else? Okay,
I concur.
okay.
But I think one powerful technique which American Airlines is deploying is the UV light. There is a UV source there. You don't require any chemical, and before the school starts or school ends, you take this UV source and disinfect the entire building, which quite safe. This is what people are trying to use it in the hospitals and even in the mask. People are trying to disinfect. So this is something also to be looked at, whether the UV light source could be a better alternative also, where you disinfect the entire building without using any chemical and it's too fast. American Airlines is going to use that. I was watching that on television.
Naresh, the architects in the operations committee meeting were telling us that one of the downsides of going with a UV system is they require quite a lot of maintenance and continuing attention to them to keep them operating properly.
Well, I guess we have to do some research on that, because this is becoming common thing today. You can buy from Amazon actually for a handheld unit like a flashlight, which people would be carrying with their pocket. When they go, they de-inspect wherever they sit there. I mean, this is something that what we hear from one person may not be the complete true story.
I just recently read a pretty extensive report on UV lights, and they don't work, basically. There are some that do, like they're called UV-C, but they require a lot of power, and they require a long exposure time to kill things like COVID. So they're really not practical.
I'm not sure about it. I will look into that more and then give you some information.
Okay. So, none of what we just talked about needs a resolution, right? We're just sort of like asking you to get us more information, right, Tim?
I think I got a pretty good direction from the board. I think you
Okay.
guys
You have to be
want me to do
open-minded.
some research and get it done quickly.
Yep, good, all right.
If I'm reading it correctly.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, so is that operations done?
And with that, Madam
Yes.
Chairman, I complete the report.
Okay, so our next portion of our agenda is the first opportunity for public comment. Given this hybrid way of having our board meeting, we published that if the public had comment, to place it through a specific email that was broadcast on our website and otherwise. But if you did not, and you're listening and you have questions, you certainly are able to submit questions to the administration through the regular email system. Not that we can answer them tonight or anything. I'm just saying if you didn't have that opportunity and after this meeting you have some questions, you're certainly able to do that. But now we're going to just go through some of the comments that we did receive, and I wasn't able to get into the emails. So.
Can we let the people in person?
Yeah, I was going to say, do you want to do them first?
Oh, sure, we could do that.
Yeah.
We could do that. Yep. So, what are we using?
Agenda items.
Is there, oh, there's a mic? Okay.
Yes.
So if you have a comment and you're in the audience, because we do have a few people in the audience but we're at our 25 limit. If you have a question or a comment, if you can come up to the microphone, state your name and where you're from, and provide us your comment or question.
Seeing none.
Hi, my name is Charlie Margulies. I'm a senior at Watchung Hills from Watchung and the captain of the robotics team. I'd first like to thank the board and administration for the reopening execution so far. Before the school year started, I had sent an email with my questions and concerns to Principal Librera and Dr. Jewett. They responded quickly and provided answers to all my questions. So far, I can tell you that from a student's perspective, the school year has gone impressively smooth. Technological issues have been solved promptly. Teachers have made the best of the new challenge, and they have made students feel comfortable by ensuring that we are following strict health and safety protocol. With that being said, I am concerned that more clubs, including robotics, are not yet being approved to operate. I understand that this board meeting is not the last time that clubs will be approved, but on behalf of the Robotics Club, I want to appeal to the board that you give us permission to restart sooner. I'm grateful that our competitions are being voted on as potential field trips tonight, but so much of the value of our club is in engaging students in engineering. First, the governing body of our robotics competition has always stressed to us that, in their words, FIRST isn't just about the competition. It's about preparing for the future. It's about building a community and building leaders. But FIRST has never provided us with extensive guidance as to how we run the club. Though they are still working on the details of our competitions, much of the activity of our club follows school protocol or is guided by our advisors or captains. In the first robotics competition, we designed, build, and program 120-pound robots to compete in a game on a basketball court-sized playing field against other schools. But more importantly, our club usually runs throughout the whole school year where students learn about the engineering design process, how to use design software, operate machines, how to code, solder wires, how to work as a team, and so much more. Teaching these skills to new students would normally be happening during meetings right now and is not reliant on guidance from FIRST. Being able to start this sooner would allow us to ensure that our members are properly trained on the machinery, a valuable introduction into engineering regardless of the competition. Delaying would force us to spend time usually allotted for preparing our robot to review safety in the machine shop and teach new members new skills. It's analogous with what we're doing in the marching band, where even though our competitions were canceled and we're unable to perform our halftime show at football games, it is still worthwhile to have practices and learn a show to make us better musicians and performers, as well as to teach the basics of marching band to new students. With the overall push in STEM education, including being a performance indicator in the district's strategic plan, the Robotics Club is at the forefront. Students from the Robotics Club are consistently high achievers in high school and beyond, including a student engineering at MIT, learning computer science at the University of Michigan, and multiple students studying engineering at Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, and Purdue, among other top engineering schools in the past few years alone. Including myself, 4 of the 11 National Merit semifinalists named last week have been a part of the Robotics Club. The board is accepting donations from 2 Robotics Club members of surgical mask strap extenders, face shields, and mask frames tonight. Both students using skills learned and resources from the robotics team to make PPE for hospitals and now for the school. Though I have already had an invaluable experience and plan on continuing engineering into college, I was hopeful that I would have the opportunity to ensure that the next group of Whrhs Boe warriors have similar experiences and continue the success of the program. Led by Mr. Ponzio, we have an extremely dedicated group of advisors who have been committed to the team and to us for many years. We recognize that STEM education is a high priority for the school and are hopeful the board will continue to allow the Robotics Club to be a valuable part of our education and to implement a safe robotics program in the face of COVID-19. I hope the board will expedite the approval of the Robotics Club due to the tremendous value it brings to the Watchung Hills community, understanding that we can and will do so in a safe way. I understand that some of what I said has been addressed tonight, but still, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Greg O'Reilly. I'm a social studies teacher and president of the WHREA. I'd like to say good evening and thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the WHREA. While our school's faculty and staff are encouraged to be working with our community's young adults, creating enriching academic experiences, we are still challenged by high levels of anxiety brought on by teaching during a pandemic. While the administration and Board of Education have made some meaningful progress in adapting our school to the hybrid model, the area of the school building's HVAC system is still a cause for serious concern. After faculty and staff reported to work during the opening day's professional development, we were provided with test results on a selection of rooms balancing and airflow. The results of the rooms and units that were tested were good. However, the WHREA believes that all classrooms and workspaces should be tested to demonstrate their safety for our community's children and our faculty and staff. In order for any meaningful academic experience and education to take place, all students and staff must have confidence in the safety of their building. They must be able to see and understand why their classroom and workspace is safe. Without more testing, the faculty and staff will consistently second-guess the safety of the HVAC system and be distracted by the suspicion of why their room was not tested. It is not enough to simply assure them that the building is safe, but it must be explained and demonstrated with evidence of that safety. As an association, we have consistently asked that any members' request to see the evidence that demonstrates the safety of the HVAC system in their room be granted. Several times our request has been second-guessed and periodically ignored or denied. It is not unreasonable for those who will spend each day in the classrooms and workspaces of our school to know that they are safe. Over the past couple of weeks, there were circumstances that demonstrate why complete testing of all rooms is necessary. Several rooms in the guidance suite in the main office area did not have adequate airflow because the blower was not turned on. Members of that department asked for their rooms to be checked, and this issue was discovered and rectified. A room in Suite 23 had a similar issue that was also resolved only after faculty and staff asked for those rooms to be checked. We wish to ensure that there are no other rooms that are experiencing little to no airflow, which has been demonstrated to be possible during this school year. Therefore, we implore you to test any rooms that have not been tested already to demonstrate the safety of the HVAC system to faculty, staff, and our students. Additionally, we ask that the choir and band workspaces throughout the school be tested for the air change rate. Given the increased respiratory activities of playing an instrument and singing in an enclosed room, the demands on the HVAC system in those spaces are different than in normal classrooms. However, they were tested along the same minimum requirements as normal classrooms and offices. It is important to know that there is more airflow and that the supply of fresh air in those spaces recycles at a higher rate that are recommended by recent aerosol studies. Without that information, we do not know how safe the students and faculty are in those spaces. It is our genuine hope that the Board of Education and administration will follow through on their commitments to demonstrate the safety of our school. Thank you for your time and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shiv Goel, and I'm a junior at Watchung Hills from Watchung. And first of all, I would like to thank the board for this opportunity to speak. Unfortunately, I had heard some of this misinformation about the co-curriculars, and I'd come here today to hear the board's response, and I'm glad to have been reassured as to the fact that our clubs will be running as normal. And I would also like
I'm just going to interrupt you for a second. Yep. Can you either speak closer to the microphone or perhaps take your, I don't know if taking your mask off would help. Sure. You're far enough away from everyone if you're comfortable, or if you can just get closer to the microphone. That
sure.
would be great.
Is this better?
Yes, that is
okay,
better. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just saying that I wanted to thank the board for reassuring the students and all the teachers as to the continuation of the clubs. And I would like to request that the Model United Nation Club be approved as soon as possible. Our regular conferences, such as the Whrhs Model UN conference that was actually supposed to be discussed tonight, was moved completely virtually, as well as some of the other conferences coming up. And to train our new delegates to be sufficiently prepared for those conferences, we need as much time as possible. Last year was actually one of our most successful years for the club, and we got several awards, including one for the entire school's delegations represented at the conference. And to continue that kind of success, we need to be able to enroll new members as much as possible and to train them sufficiently. So, yeah, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
We have our own pit crew for the board meeting tonight.
Hi, I'm Mike Gangloff. I'm a teacher at Watchung Hills, and I serve on the Whrhea Executive Board as co-grievance chair. First, I want to thank you for your support in putting forward the approval of co-curricular clubs for the 20 and 21 school year. Faculty and staff that advise these clubs are eager to begin working with their students, and the students are the beneficiaries of the actions of the board. We all know how important these clubs are for our students in their personal, academic, and social growth. I understand the board's frustration about misinformation regarding club approval. Many of the advisors of these clubs have been dealing with that level of confusion and lack of communication surrounding their operations and approval of the clubs they have applied for or have been inquiring about since the summer. Until this meeting, the understanding left with the faculty and staff has been that there's no guarantee that the clubs will run or be approved, and I hope you can appreciate how confusing that can be. From the time the Whrhea met with the board in June over athletics and throughout the summer, the message about co-curriculars was that they would be approved in late August. When that board meeting came and went, an email from the administration came out that, while in itself was confusing in that it indicated that we would need in-person meetings and that there would not be busing for students, the email also indicated that co-curriculars would be approved at the September board meeting. You can imagine, therefore, the surprise from our co-curricular advisors when they received a late Friday email indicating that they would not be board approved. No other explanation, no other communication. When the Whrhea reached out over this past weekend to the advisors, they expressed their shock and dismay over not ever being reached out to. None of the advisors felt anyone had asked them anyone had asked them how they could run their club in a virtual setting. The few advisors that were lucky enough to have communication at all were never once clued into the fact that decisions to not approve their clubs were happening. Peer Leaders, a club not up for approval tonight, already ran meetings and organized students for freshman orientation. Science League and Robotics have heard from their head organizations that they plan to run this year, but no one has reached out and spoken with the advisors to solicit any input. The yearbook advisors emailed questions about the viability of running completely virtual and have heard nothing back. By all accounts of the advisors, everyone was expecting to be board approved at tonight's meeting. And I ask you, where were the discussions that could have taken place with the advisors? Where was the transparency and communication that was talked about when developing a strategic plan? Even department supervisors had no idea the decision about co-curricular clubs were not going to be approved. What it comes down to is the advisors of these clubs want to run them and are ready and willing to work to make them happen so that every student can have some outside of the classroom enrichment. So I ask you to please consider approving all the clubs. In addition, the Whrhea has emailed you, the board, individual feedback from the co-curricular advisors on the real value and experiences their clubs offer our community's children. In their feedback, you will find strategies and ideas for how to make running these clubs a reality during the hybrid learning. Thank you.
I'm just going to address this one last time. Usually I don't do this, but there was no decision tonight to not approve the co-curricular clubs. So that is a misrepresentation. There were certain clubs on the agenda tonight that will be approved, and as we move forward, there will be other clubs that will be approved. The department HR director has reached out to advisors, and she has specifically indicated she's had conversations with people about how these clubs will go forward. We still have certain clubs that have nobody who have stepped up to actually apply for the positions. And I think that it is clear from the board's position that we completely support each club and starting each club, but we're in a situation, especially at the end of August, where we got conflicting information about are we opening, are we not opening, how are we opening? And so we're doing the best we can with what we have, and we would just, again, as I've said a couple times during these meetings, just ask for your patience and your flexibility. Everything will get opened, and the students will have the best experience we can provide them. And to think otherwise is to really not support anything that all of us have been doing all summer, all weeks, every summer, emails and texts, the amount of committee meetings that we had. We've been working so hard to bring this opening and let the kids start school, and to think that we're now having to defend ourselves about co-curriculars. I'm getting as angry as Bob was. I wasn't as angry before, Bob, I have to say, but now I am just as angry as you. And I really think that you don't understand the amount of support and thought process that have gone into this opening if you think that we are just willy-nilly not going to approve co-curricular clubs for the students. So is there anyone else who is ready to speak, is in the audience tonight, before we move forward with the email comments?
Madam President, I thank you for your comments, and I want to be clear. We looked at all the clubs in the Ed Committee meeting and looked at all the ones that were able to run at this point in time. And those are what are being approved, or on the agenda for approval this evening. There were many clubs where we do not have advisors, largely because the advisors did not respond to the survey that went out about the clubs. There are other clubs that can't run because of other considerations, including waiting for things to come from the governing bodies. And some of the other clubs are scheduled to run in the fall or in the spring and don't need to be approved tonight. And some of the clubs aren't staffed because we don't have staff in place yet for them. I believe this has been explained to the faculty members. I believe this has been explained to the union. This farce that's going on right now is unexcusable. In this environment, I expect better.
Okay.
Can I make just?
Mr. Stice, there's some
Can
comments?
I make a quick observation? No. I'll try to make it quick.
Please.
Well, because I'm observing, and I have this feeling, this need to turn things positive, because this whole club situation, and I have a way of looking at things, of trying to always find the positive in things, and I think the positive here is there's a lot of passion from the teachers and the students about the clubs, which is actually what makes this school so awesome. So I actually applaud everybody's passion. And again, reassure what everybody here on the board has been saying is that we've spoken about this topic many, many times and are doing absolutely everything to approve the clubs, and that is the intent. So again, just want to kind of spin things on the positive and thank everybody for their passion and desire to make this school the amazing place that it is, and the clubs are a big part of that. Because robotics seems to be such a hot topic, and I have a robotics kid at home who doesn't stop talking to me about it as well. And I keep explaining to him as well what's the intent in the conversations. And he keeps educating me about kind of what's going on in the background as well, and the fact that this is not just necessarily about preparing for a competition that might be later. It's also about bringing in kind of the younger cohort, educating them, and really building the next generation of robotics kids for the future. And that was news to me. So I would just I would just ask the advisors and the students, as you passionately, fight for your club, just educate everybody about, let's just kind of work together and have a discussion and explain to one another what we need and why a competition might or might not be, or an event might or might not be the reason to approve a club and the timing, just so that everybody is fully educated on the needs of the club and the timing. So just a suggestion to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Stice.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to just drop the mask so you can hear me a little bit better. I apologize but I'm far enough away. And I'll apologize to anybody in the public if I do not pronounce your name properly. I'll do the best I can with that one. So I'm going to go one at a time. And a lot of these came prior to the meeting. So they may not have heard any of the things that were discussed. So anyway, the first one is from, I think the name is Inika Costathane. It's one of our students, an 11th grade co-editor of the school newspaper. And it says, regarding clubs, I'd like to propose that certain clubs that are fully able to be continued while following governmental regulations regarding social distancing, such as the school newspaper, be permitted to run this year. In terms of functionality, the student newspaper operated almost entirely online, even before the coronavirus, through Google Docs and Adobe InDesign. And all of its writers and editors would be more than happy to continue writing and publishing articles if the school allows them to do so. Additionally, the staff published not one, but 2 issues in June after in-person schooling had been closed. We provided a PDF to the issue to the administration, which was later posted on the school website. Thus, the club has already proved its ability to act efficiently despite social distancing guidelines. If funding is what is preventing the club from running, there still is no justification as to why the newspaper is being forced to discontinue. The printing of paper editions is where most of the funding goes, and since we will not be able to print editions due to current circumstances, and instead will be exclusively distributing everything online, which comes at no cost to the school, it is unreasonable to close the club due to financial issues. Lastly, as current co-editor-in-chief, I'd like to argue that the newspaper is one of the few ways WHRHS can maintain school spirit through these trying times, with the school population being divided among cohorts and unable to bond over in-person events. A unifying force is needed now more than ever. That force is the student newspaper. I implore the board to reconsider its decision on certain clubs, specifically the newspaper, that have repeatedly shown to enrich student engagement in the WHRHS community and provide a much-needed outlet for student perspectives. Thank you for your time. Very nice. If I mess this name up, I'm in trouble. Jana Badalaro. It's one of our teachers. Jana's our English teacher, one of our English teachers. She writes, the Arrowhead, the Watchung Hills student newspaper, has been a proud tradition for more than 50 years. As time has marched on and society has changed, so has the Arrowhead. While once a print-only, in-person club, we are now able to print a digital edition with the ability to meet, plan, and revise virtually. While we were subjected to quarantine, the Arrowhead staff was able to plan, produce, and publish 3 editions entirely digitally. I was able to meet with my staff as well as brainstorm, edit, revise, and plan, all while virtual in a society in moments of crisis, as we are now. What message are we sending to our future scholars when we say, sorry, journalistic integrity is meaningless? Your interest in celebrating the achievements of our fellow students and your teachers is not important. Your hard work in finding the stories to tell and communicating them honestly and with integrity to our entire school community is not valued. Some of my Arrowhead editors have been producing stories for this paper for 3 years. How do I tell them now in their senior year that they may not have their name on the masthead or their activity on their college applications? My students and I proved way back in March that this club is able to not only work but thrive in a virtual social distance capacity. We did not miss a minute of planning, writing, revising, seeking, and publishing. In a time when our nation as a whole is struggling to find the positive, please do not take away the opportunities from my students. Do not take the voice of the students away. Please allow the arrowhead to continue to run and print the stories that matter to our school community. Thank you for your time.
Tim, I now am in it, so if you want to like tag team or you want me to finish them, whatever way you want to.
Wherever you want to play it.
That's okay, I can go. All right, so the next one is from James
yeah.
Giacchi, if I'm saying that right. He had emailed directly to the, he's from Warren, New Jersey. He had emailed directly a question and got some feedback back, but he had some additional thoughts. I would like to add that robotics has some unique aspects to it that may be lost. While one of the end results of the season is to build and compete with a robot against other schools, the majority of activities takes place before the official season. Even if there was no season this year and first, in caps, ran no competitions, the students would still gain a significant amount of experience that makes the program worth doing. In addition, a large majority of the institutional knowledge we have built over the last 20 years gets passed from the senior members of the team to those with less time in the program. If we wait for guidance from the first organization to start this year's team, which we have no idea when it will come, we will forfeit a lot of time available for the mentoring and growth of the students. It is my recommendation and hope that the robotics program be prioritized for approval as soon as possible. I believe that the team is capable of adapting to this new environment as necessary. The nature of scheduled board meetings means that if it's not approved tonight, it will be at least 1 to 2 month delay on the start of our learning. While every challenge can be overcome, I believe the challenges presented by our current environment can be more easily overcome than the deficit in time and knowledge starting later in the year would present. The next one is from Jordan Youngelson, and who also lives in Warren. As a senior, clubs have been an extremely important part of my high school experience. Although my time in clubs is coming to an end, I feel it is more important now than ever before to have a connection to our peers outside of the classroom. I am president of 4 clubs, 3 of which are being allowed to run, yet the advisors are committed to the clubs and want the clubs to run, or not being allowed to run, sorry. As someone who is very involved in the school community, I think I can speak for all students when I say that clubs provide students a place to bond of similar interest, meet new students, and enrich their academic experience, something that is needed now more than ever to bring students together even when they are at home. Clubs should be allowed to hold virtual meetings during office hours to allow all students to attend. Alina Bergners from Warren. I currently have 2 kids in high school. One is a freshman and one is a junior. I have the following questions that I hope can be addressed. I'll read the questions, but just so everyone's clear, these questions can be responded to through the administration later on. We're not going to do a question and answer session tonight. Why our high school has a shortened day? Is it related to food intervals? But if kids can have a snack time, can we rename it lunchtime? Can they have food brought from home and eat at their desk? With such small classes, since they are all broken into cohorts, why is that a problem? How is it even legal to have a half day of school and count it as a full day? Our kids are robbed of valuable learning time. Or is it related to teachers' prep time? But why do they need 2 additional hours to essentially share the same material with in-person and virtual? 2 hours seems excessive. What is the plan to go back to full day instruction? Anita Ingram, also from Warren. For the last 7 years, the Watchung Hills community has been an enormous part of our lives. Our kids were active in many clubs, which gave them some of the best experiences of their time in high school, which is why this issue means so much to us. Our son, who graduated in 2017, is a senior at Yale University. Our twin daughters, who were in the class of 2020, are first-year students at Barnard College of Columbia University. All 3 children were part of the Model UN team run by Mr. and Mrs. Kruger, and continue to express how big of an impact it has left on their lives because of the skills they learned and the memories they made. They gained invaluable knowledge about the world and current events. They fostered their public speaking and writing skills, and they learned about collaboration and working to solve problems, all of which are crucial in their lives today. This club and Mr. and Mrs. Kruger have meant so much to them. They have continued Model UN in college, where our son and his team run the Yale Model UN team and have conducted and competed in many domestic and international conferences. Our daughters just joined the Columbia Model UN team and are looking forward to continuing this activity that has meant so much. Furthermore, our daughters, along with the help of the BOE, spent years of their time in high school building and growing the speech and debate team. Both were nationally ranked competitors, and Rupa, as a member of the U.S. debate team, traveled to multiple international tournaments to represent our country and school. They were looking forward to working with Mr. Aquavia and Mr. and Mrs. Kruger from Model UN to strengthen the club, work with the students, and help them attend and succeed at tournaments. It is important to note that most Model UN conferences and speech and debate tournaments have moved into an entirely online format, which means this board is actively putting our students at a disadvantage. During the uncertainty of a pandemic, clubs are the one thing that can bring a sense of normalcy back to the lives of so many students. Both Model UN and the Speech and Debate Club can be run remotely, and Watchung Hills has a unique opportunity to ask for the help of alumni, regardless of where they are in the country, to help mentor current students because of the online format. Students need these clubs to gain the valuable life skills that simply are not taught in classrooms, and they need the social interaction that comes with being able to spend time with the people they care about in a non-academic setting. There are many talented students in our district who want the opportunity to expand their interest and learn from incredible mentors like Mr. and Mrs. Kruger and Mr. Aquavia. We strongly urge the board to reconsider their decision and hope that these clubs will continue this year.
Bless you.
Thank you. Probably try to hold that one.
Mary Ann Koruth, she lives in Warren. I'm a parent of a junior, and I'm shocked and disappointed that the clubs have been canceled, barring a few because of COVID-19. We owe it to the students and their mental health to allow clubs to convene virtually or with social distancing. Canceling them is unfair and irresponsible. Alan Wang is a student. It doesn't show me where he's from. This is Alan Wang, from Warren, and I would like to make a formal request to the Watchung Hills Regional High School Board of Education to allow for the school newspaper to run this year. The school newspaper is one of the very few clubs that is able to run completely virtual, so no one's health and safety will be jeopardized. All of our staff and writer and editor meetings can be held over Google Meet or Zoom, and all of our monthly editions can be posted on our new website and/or sent out in the email blast to all the students. Many WHRHS students look forward to reading the monthly editions of the school newspaper, and because of how it would still be able to function 100% virtually as a club, I think that the school newspaper should be allowed to run this year. Thank you for understanding. Judy Shanahan from Warren. I would like further information regarding the decision to not hold many clubs. I've heard that clubs will not be allowed to held virtually, and I would like more information on that, if that is true, and what reasoning was used for that decision. Janine Feinstein, Long Hill. I have a senior who is past year president for the Tabletop Gaming Club. This club has provided a great community for him and its members. He has a strong passion for the tabletop gaming and strategy gaming, and has, along with their club leadership, created a great space for them to have fun together in a great community activity. He is working diligently on finding a virtual way for them to meet up and play tabletop games virtually. It is great for them to problem solve, learn to pivot in this pandemic, all while maintaining their community. These interests are important for students and also provide a flow through in their activities for their college applications. And most importantly, in these stressful times, it's so important for them to maintain their social and after-school activities. Jack Osmond from Long Hill. My name is Jack Osmond from Long Hill, and I'm a junior at Watchung Hills. I'm currently an editor for the school newspaper, and I would like to voice my concern over the WHRHS newspaper, formerly known as the Arrowhead newspaper, as well as many other clubs not being resumed this fall. Although I understand that there have been issues regarding teacher contracts, I believe it is necessary for clubs to exist at the high school. Clubs are a vital way of maintaining school spirit, especially in such trying times, and contribute greatly to the WHRES community. I have been a member of multiple clubs, all of which have improved my experience at WHRHS. My classmates will tell you the same. I implore you all to come to a resolution that allows clubs to reopen. Many students, including myself, are dismayed at this decision. However, it is truly upsetting because we do not understand why this decision has been reached. The guidelines for meeting do not seem to make sense for social distancing, no virtual meetings, ? And make it especially difficult for virtual students to be included. It is a matter of funding if this is a matter of funding / contracts, why close only certain clubs and keep all sports open? Coaches are being paid and sports are being run to the best of our ability with the coronavirus. Clubs are for many students what sports are for the rest of them. Clubs allow students who aren't interested or physically able to participate in athletics as an outlet, find enjoyment in arts, music, literature, and the community of clubs. To keep sports open and close all these clubs sends a clear message to students and teachers. Sports are valued above other extracurriculars, and non-athletic extracurriculars will always take a back seat. If this is a matter of CDC guidelines, there are a myriad of ways clubs can stay open. Virtual meetings or meetings outside under the tents with masks are just a few solutions to this problem. I absolutely implore you to reconsider your decision regarding clubs. Thank you for your time.
Excuse me, Madam President. Can you see how many more comments you have?
Let's see.
Well, the only reason why I'm asking is I'd like to be excused before we move on to action items to use the bathroom.
Sure.
Thank you.
I have, there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
I think
6,
there's
7,
15
8,
left. I'm
9,
following along.
15?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to take a quick break. I wish I had water.
Yeah, we don't have.
Yeah, I know.
We should have
That's okay.
bottles in
I
each
didn't think
person's
about that.
Station.
There's no water bottles anywhere, right?
No, you know
No.
what? We need to do that.
If you're taking a break, I
B-
can maybe.
BYOB.
Yeah, I didn't think of it. It's okay.
I have a couple bottles in my office I could run and get. How long of a break are we taking? Like 5 minutes? I
Yeah.
can run and get you a bottle. I'll be right back.
I'll stay here.
Yeah, you can stay.
Bathroom breaks.
I'll be right back.
Yeah.
I could use a little movement of my legs anyway after
Yeah.
sitting for so long.
I didn't hear the answer to her question when they asked how many more.
I think she said 15.
Oh, okay, that's not so bad.
Did you say 1, 5?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. 1, 5 common cell? Yeah, 15.
I mean, a lot of them are about the clubs, so.
They're not all about the clubs?
There's a few.
Come back from their adjournment to turn the microphones back on, the rush.
Now we know what the
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
but I refrained.
Mike Pisani's bringing, I just told him to come up to the stage, he's getting it from the fridge in the.
Oh, water?
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
Yep,
thank
it's
you.
on its way.
All right. Okay, here we go. We'll be here all night. This is from Kay Platt, and that's not a teacher that I don't know about. Oh, Warren. Oh,
She
and
is a
teacher.
special ed teacher.
Okay. As one yearbook is finished, the next book is started. Over the course of the summer, I attended numerous workshops, answered dozens of yearbook-related emails, scheduled senior portraits, and completed many yearbook-related tasks. I attended multiple meetings regarding student ID cards. All this was done in good faith without a contract. I was reassured through the summer that the contracts would be coming out, so I continued to do this work without question. Half of what I do for yearbook is administrative in nature. There is a lot that goes into planning, coordinating, and organizing the book each year. This is more involved than just running the club. Countless hours are dedicated and required to complete the book. The students on the yearbook staff enjoy contributing to their school by providing historical documentation of the year. This year is like no other and should be documented as such. These students need an outlet just as much as the student athletes. Our student staff members want to be able to include yearbook on their college applications. Many of our yearbook staff members have gone on to attend prestigious universities. Their involvement in yearbook helped them gain acceptance into their universities. The class of 2021 is faced with many limitations as they begin the college admissions process. This year will be more challenging than ever with the inability to take ACT and SATs multiple times and many students from the class of 2020 taking gap years. Now more than ever, students need to be able to participate in clubs to show that they have leadership experience. Don't we want our students to have this advantage? If we don't offer clubs, what is going to make our students stand out? Hopefully the district understands that yearbook meetings would need to start immediately if they want the books to be ready for distribution in June. There were many issues and plant delays this year due to social distancing protocols, and staying on schedule will be necessary. Not having a yearbook would be especially disappointing to the class of 2021, as they already lost so much this year. Matt Delabovi, physics teacher. As the advisor of both physics team for Science League, I am disappointed in the decision not to approve this co-curricular activity for 2020-2021 school year. While athletic teams were approved, as an academically high-achieving school, Science League is an important means for motivating students to compete intellectually and develop independent learning skills. Our teams have consistently ranked in the top 10 in the state, with individual students earning personal recognition. The club benefits outside of the competition translate to improved performances and participation in class, higher standardized test scores, and increased self-confidence. Club members have an impact on non-members as well. By promoting intellectual camaraderie, collaboration, and peer mentoring, these academic and social-emotional benefits extend to other students. These are the real benefits of Science League to our learning community. As a student myself, I was a member of my high school Science League. I was like many of our highly motivated students and experienced these benefits firsthand. It is an experience which has a positive impact on me intellectually and socially, and one for which I am grateful. I've been teaching at Watchung Hills for 15 years, advising these teams for a long time, have collaborated to develop and improve our curriculum, and am a vocal advocate for my students. The pandemic certainly poses unique challenges to our co-curricular activities that require creative solutions. I have a plan that would allow this activity to continue to run and provide the same benefits in a hybrid/virtual setting. Yet my professional experience and expertise were not sought out. I will always value this program to our students, and I hope you continue to do so as well. I encourage you to speak with me about my ideas. Thank you for your time and consideration. Kate Griffin. I live in Chester, but I teach at Watchung Hills, and I, as well as other faculty members and staff, am heavily involved in Script and Cue, the student-run club which is responsible for cabaret nights, fall play, and spring musical. Since March of last school year, our team has been discussing and planning for a way to provide our student performers with the opportunity to practice, hone, and share their crafts in the environment that would be safe for all performers and audience members. Last Friday, we were informed via email that our club would not be approved in this board meeting. Not only that, but the numerous emails and questions asking for clarity and information regarding Script and Cue throughout the summer went unanswered. Some questions I have include: why is Script and Cue not being approved at this time? What is the reasoning behind choosing some clubs and extracurricular activities to run over others? Dikshita Gurapati from Greenbrook. Hope you and your families are doing well. My name is Dikshita Gurapati, and I am a senior attending Watchung Hills who resides in Greenbrook. I was just wondering if clubs could still continue virtually, because I am the club president of the Waxman Biology Club, and I've just recently completed an extensive summer program called the WSSP Student Scholar. As this is my last year, I was personally excited to share my knowledge by leading this club this school year. I understand that conducting this club in person will not be personal, so would a virtual club be feasible? Thank you for your time and hope you can consider my request. Anne-Marie Johnson, the Waxman, a biology teacher here at the high school. The Waxman Molecular Biology Club provides opportunities for high school students to conduct an authentic research project in molecular biology and publish their findings. This is a year-long program that has already started this summer when 2 students were selected to attend a virtual summer institute at Rutgers. These students successfully analyzed novel DNA sequences that have been submitted to be published on a database used by scientists. These students would like to know if they will have the opportunity to later this year run the club in a virtual setting. They were hoping to share what they learned this summer with other students at Watchung Hills during the club, with the goal that additional students will learn about bioinformatics and also publish novel sequences. Thank you for your time. Lee Brodsky, English teacher. And my question for the administration and the BOE is, what is the rationale for requiring in-person meetings when a majority of the club members might be virtual? How does that create an equitable and inclusive environment? Thank you. Lavito Desiree, will you be asking for feedback from the students on snack time? My understanding is that most of the high schoolers are not using this for snack time. There are no tables, to the best of my understanding, and by the time they get to the tent, they have very little time. A better use of the time may be to get out earlier or start later or allow additional time between classes. This email, including any attachments, is meant only for the intended, oh no, sorry. Sorry. Oh, I'm getting punchy. 4 more. Ahir Verma. Hi, my name is Ahir Verma. I live in Greenbrook, and I'm currently a junior at Watchung Hills. As a student, as well as a member of the editorial board of the school newspaper, I've become very concerned by the school's decision to discontinue the newspaper and many other clubs this school year. In particular, the newspaper is a vital part of the WHRHS school community, especially during these difficult times. Even before the pandemic, the newspaper was largely independent and virtual. During our period of distance learning in the spring, we were able to continue our publications by expanding our use of social media to publish articles, while continuing our monthly editions virtually as well. If anything, the newspaper has expanded its reach during this period of social distancing, and everyone involved in it has come together to make it a point of common connection for the student body. Given its ability to operate under these circumstances and its vitality to our school, there's no reason why the school newspaper should not be allowed to continue the school year. The discontinuation of many other clubs has also been disheartening for me and my fellow classmates. Many clubs can operate just as effectively as before through virtual meetings, and yet the school guidelines on club authorization seem to actually discourage this. Many of the teachers that advised these clubs were eager to continue running them this year, only to be shut down for reasons that simply don't make sense. Clubs are the culture and lifeblood of WHRHS, allowing students to explore their interests beyond simple academics and build communities of like-minded individuals. During this time of social distancing, allowing these clubs to continue virtually where possible is necessary to allow the Watchung Hill spirit to flourish. I hope that this board will strongly reconsider their decision to discontinue these programs this year. Thank you for your time. John Santucci. My name is John Santucci. I'm a resident of Watchung, and I'm writing to you this evening on behalf of current members of the Watchung Regional High School Marching Warriors. We wish to voice our extreme displeasure regarding the recent decision to prohibit our ensemble from performing our marching band showing during halftime at the upcoming home football games scheduled for October 2nd, 23rd, and November 6th. We have been working diligently and efficiently since the month of July to prepare our show this year, entitled Steampunks, not only so that we may perform it publicly for an audience, but more importantly, so that we may continue our grand tradition of marching band that we all take deep and unwavering pride in, even in the face of crisis such as COVID-19 pandemic. Contrary to popular belief, we do not attend football games solely to support our football team. We attend our home games to perform. Although we are not considered a sport, we care for our activity and for our fellow players as much, if not more, than our school's various athletes care for their respective sports and teammates. Each and every one of us is integral to our collective success. We do not attend 2 weeks of band camp in the sweltering heat of August to play stand tunes for our football games. I must reiterate, we go to perform, we are our own activity, and we demand to be treated as such. We are not an extension of the football team, and it's quite insulting that anyone in our administration would think that to be the case. As stated before, all members of the marching band are essential to our success. An affront to one of us is an affront to all of us, and that includes our director, Mr. Paul McCullen. Mr. McCullen has worked tirelessly for months in order to give us some semblance of a normal season. He has made tremendous sacrifices, and for this we are in his debt. Yet when we request that we may rehearse, he is told that we cannot use the stadium or our own practice field. He is told that we must put chalk on the parking lot and we can rehearse there. Mr. McCullen always has our best interests in mind, but he constantly faces obstruction in school administration when he attempts to put those interests into practice. We believe that is shameful. Alas, this behavior is not only seen in school administration, now seen among fellow teachers and coaches and their respective students and athletes. The only reasoning provided to us as to why we may not perform during halftime is that our performance would be a distraction to the football team, as they are not allowed inside the school for their meetings. Even though our primary objective at our games is to perform, we are also there to support the team, and we have done just that. We attend every football game of every season, no matter how much our team is losing by. We are here to cheer their mom on. This has forever been a thankless task. Never do the football players or the coaches attend any of our weekly competitions, yet we still show up each Friday for them. To call us a distraction when we are simply trying to share our art with the rest of the world is nothing short of degrading and hurtful. We, the Watchung Hills Regional High School Marching Warriors, demand the respect for us and for our cherished form of art that is long overdue. Smita Abbey from Greenbrook. I am a parent of a child in junior year. I would like to request the BOE to support after-school clubs for the children, especially clubs like the school newspaper and Model UN that can easily be done virtually. These clubs are important for the kids' growth. Please let me know how I can help to support these. Patty Grunther, questions for board meeting. All club advisors contacted to learn how their clubs did running virtually last spring before making a decision that seemed to eliminate numerous clubs this year. On what basis was it decided which clubs would run and which would not? Were these criteria made available to club advisors, students, parents, and the community? I have written or am writing letters of recommendation for students to apply in college. Many seniors list clubs for their senior year that now appear not to be running. Were they informed? Do these letters now need to be rewritten? Why can clubs not be run virtually? If clubs have live meetings, this will exclude all students who are enrolled virtually from participating in any clubs. This is not a fair policy. In addition, since club members are bound to come from different cohorts, live meetings means mixing cohorts A and B, which seems to violate the school's reopening plan. Students' social and emotional well-being is one of the main, if not the main reason for reopening school during a pandemic, for moving forward with school sports despite the risks involved. Are clubs considered by the administration to be less important to fostering emotional belonging and social interaction and skills than academics and sports? This seems to counterintuitive based on what we know about the value of school clubs. And I think that's it. Or is there more?
What was the last one you
Oh,
said?
wait.
Yeah, there's
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Rosemary Logan. Oh, it's a whole letter. It's an attached letter. So, let's see, I have to download it. Okay. She's the parent of the Band Parents Association. Our children are recently notified that the marching band will not be allowed to perform their show at halftime this football season. The reason given to our children was that the band and cheerleaders would be distracting to the football team. This seems an unfounded claim, as the marching band is a traditional, timeless staple of the American football experience. Moreover, by barring the hardworking students of the marching band from performing, you disregard the dedication and effort put in these students to learn and perfect their show. Their continued success in competitions for the past year show the momentum and culture of dedication embodied by this organization. We, as their mentors and guardians, should encourage this continued development of their responsibility and drive, which will help them as they grow into adults and move beyond high school and into the working world. The marching band also should not pose a health risk with respect to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. The band members all wear masks while performing, maintain more than 6 feet while performing on the field or in the stands, and cover the ends of their instruments in the case of wind instruments with specially designed horn masks. These precautions were taken in accordance with cutting-edge research conducted by collegiate music schools across the country. These students and we as their parents have taken these precautions with the deliberate aim of being able to not only work on their music, but also perform their show during the season with the closest semblance of normalcy as possible. As parents, we also find your disregard of our children's organization to be insulting to our children and all participants involved. They have played nearly every game, rain, shine, or snow for the entire history of the marching band organization. You also now ask them to risk their health and safety by playing in the stands while the football players have their game, yet do not extend them their normal ability to play their halftime show. We must remind you they have taken every precaution possible to maintain safety and not pose a health risk. They are less of a risk than the football team, who by the nature of their game cannot maintain social distance practices. Please keep this in mind while addressing our requests. We, as the parents of the Watchung Hills Marching Warriors, request that you allow the marching band to perform their halftime show during the 2021 school season. Football season. Jeremy Shamai from Warren, a drum major of the school's marching band. As a follow-up to my colleague John Santucci's email, I would like to suggest a solution to the current situation we are in. We'd really like to perform our show during the pregame or preferably halftime at every home game. My ask of you, the board, is pretty modest considering we have 55-member ensemble and the tremendous effort we have already put into show. In order for us to perform successfully, I kindly ask that you consider the following accommodations: a suitable practice field, not a parking lot, one evening per week, Thursday or Friday, at a suitable time for practice. The time provided to us was not accommodating for parent drop-offs. The band and I are very flexible and willing to consider any options that will allow us to safely do the activity we love and look forward to working together towards a solution. Gina Bellotti. In the meeting minutes, could you provide clarification about the updated costs for the South Cafeteria renovation, please? Does it state that it will now cost an additional $430,000, or is that the new total cost? It will cost an additional $430,000 on top of the original $342,500. And could you share any light on how the initial estimate was developed? Ken Carnes, can you please clarify are all clubs that have had advisors apply on the agenda for approval tonight?
That's it.
And Gina Bellotti, didn't I just do this? Wait. Oh, she had a different question. Oh, yeah, two questions, okay. This is from Warren. My son is a sophomore and a member of the marching band. Last year, marching band changed his life. It was the very best part of high school for him. This year, the kids will still attend a modified band camp. They were out there in mid-August in the sweltering heat learning their show. We parents were also proud of their commitment and how much they were able to accomplish. Now today, they find out that they were not able to perform at halftime for football games because they'd be a distraction for the football players. They were also told that they lost their practice field because it's being used as one of the snack areas. The only option they were given was to use the parking lot and that they'd have to chalk it themselves. Really, could we make these kids feel any less important or valued? These are dedicated musicians who have already invested hundreds of hours into a show they knew nobody would likely see this year. Now they also get the message that nobody cares about they as a group either. I'd like to request that there be a review as to how they can be given their practice field back. Would anyone take the football field away from the football team? I think not. Is the marching band any less important? Show them, give them back their field, show them that they matter. Okay.
Okay, so there are two, is that it?
Yes.
I just want to address the snack time and the marching band, and then Mr. Sykes,
Yes.
you want to address just the clarification, I guess, about the agenda item. So with regard to snack time, I have been out there myself on most days, and I can tell you that the students do utilize it for snack time. We do not have seats out there purposely, and they definitely utilize the time to get some nourishment in the middle of the day. With regard to marching band, I'm actually very perplexed at what was communicated to students by the director. I'm hoping that this is like a game of telephone and it's getting incorrectly translated and interpreted in the messages back to us, because what was shared is certainly does not express the sentiments of the administration. We tremendously value the marching band. We have made a tremendous number of investments, both financial and personnel-wise, in that program in recent years. And the decision regarding the halftime show was not ours. It is governed by the NJSIAA in terms of how football games will function this year.
So, we will certainly follow up with the director to make sure that he understands the information correctly. But the NJSIA has directed that no performances may occur during the halftime of football games this year. Cheerleaders, marching band. So the marching band, though, is going to be given the opportunity to perform before the football game. We've arranged that, and that we also offered to them if they wanted to have a performance just for them on the nights that our football team is away, because our cheerleaders and marching band will not be traveling with the football team this year for obvious reasons related to social distancing and the pandemic and how the NJSIA is overseeing different athletic events this year. So we've given them, we've given the director all of these options. And with regard to their practice field, yes, unfortunately, that is one of the areas that we have a tent up, and so the director had indicated that he possibly needed more space than is on that field. So I know that our athletic director and our director of co-curricular activities had given him some different options of other available spaces. So I do want to reassure the marching band, the students and the parents, that we tremendously value your talent, your performances, what you add to our school. And so, that season is certainly not being canceled. It's just having to be rearranged because we are not permitted to have you perform at halftime. So I just want to clarify that, and we will follow up to make sure that that information gets accurately conveyed to the students and the parents.
Thank you. Tim?
Yeah, I actually would like to add to the tent discussion, because I go to the tents every day, because nothing makes a BA more nervous than having 4 large tents on your property. So I go there every day to watch what's going on, and the kids are in there every single day, and that, to me, I mean, they look like they're having a good time. I know some of them are snacking. I mean, the one thing I would like to get going a little bit better is just the whole snack ordering thing. I know we've had a few glitches with that, but in terms of the tents being used, they're there every day, and they're all smiling, and they're having a good day. It's like a relief for them for 15 minutes. So, again, I'm walking every single day to watch what's going on in those tents. Anyway, in terms of what's on the agenda, so the South Cafeteria rooftop unit is the item that we're adding.
Sorry. That was me. I hit it by accident.
I thought I dropped something. So the South Cafeteria rooftop units, we are adding rooftop units to that area. We're trying to help out the remainder of the south building, those chillers and boilers, to help them become more efficient by adding rooftop units to that. It was quite expensive. It is an additional $430,000. So we had budgeted $342, and we have to add $430,000 to do that. It's a difficult decision, but clearly with all the other discussions on heating and ventilating and the importance of that, as we learned during this process, we felt very strongly to improve that heating and ventilating system the best we could. So, yeah, it is more money, but it's to us, it's well worth the investment in the long term for the safety and the health of everyone here.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move into action items. Because we don't have any preview, so I don't know that we need board discussion, right? So I need a motion to move some of the action items.
Madam President, I'd like to move resolutions A1 through A5.
Second.
Any questions or comments, A1 through A5? Hearing none, Mr. Size, roll call, please.
Dr. Chan?
Unmute, Naresh.
Just go thumbs up.
Yes.
There you go. Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. Hayek?
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Mrs. Ober?
Yes.
Ms. Potter?
Yes.
Dr. Shabilsky?
Sorry, yes.
You got to say yes. Ms. Raban?
Yes.
And Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Madam President, I'd like to move resolutions C1 through C51.
Oh, that's a lot. C1 through C51.
Second.
Any questions or comments on C1 through C51?
No.
Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Chan?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. Hayek?
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Mrs. Ober?
Yes.
Ms. Potter?
Yes.
Dr. Shabilsky?
Yes.
Ms. Raban?
Yes.
And Ms. Barone?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Madam President, I'd like to move resolutions D1 through D15.
Second.
Any questions or comments on D1 through D15?
Yeah, I do have a question. So Tim, regarding the D15, to
D15,
get the subscription from Zoom meetings, do we have to go to any third party, SHI International, because they must be, jacking up the price for us? Can't we subscribe directly to Zoom?
Yeah, that's an additional product, so to speak. So that's something that allows us to do, I guess, like guidance type, I don't know, like
Which one are we talking about?
the Zoom, different additional Zoom
the
license.
education license.
Yes, that's probably for Zoom webinar.
That's it, the Zoom webinar, thank
Yeah,
you.
that
Looking
allows-
for the word in my head and I couldn't get it out there. So yeah, it allows the guidance department to do webinars and things for the students.
It allows us to have, when we have those large evening sessions that we had in the spring, this actually allows up to 1,000
Oh, okay,
participants to
because
sign
otherwise,
in.
like, for this meeting, where we had 300 limit.
Yes,
right?
and the
Okay.
webinar has different features as well, where you can structure it a little bit differently with a panel and
Right,
so.
nobody can actually talk at all.
Yeah, so it's,
right.
yeah, so it's a different
Yeah,
format.
it's a different type of Zoom, Naresh. It allows a full room webinar.
No, that I understand. My question was, do we have to go through third party? I mean, can we
Oh, he wants
get
to
the
know
service
why you have
directly
to go
from the
through
company?
SHI International versus directly.
Because we are going through this company called SHI International, and they may be adding their own, overheads to that.
Well, we usually, when we go through these type of things, we usually go through a cooperative purchase is how we do it. So
But that's what I'm trying to say, that to save the cost, taxpayers' money, do we need to see that? Because Zoom has the standard rates, on their website, they charge this thing. So as far as the public spending or the government rules, I think there should not be any problem here. But we could say, I mean, this is just one example, that certain things we can buy directly from the source instead of going through a third party.
Yeah, but I understand that, but we do ask our departments to get multiple prices, and this was the best price he got. So that's why, our IT department provided that information. So again, I don't have an issue with the price.
I see. Well, I do not know. I'm just saying that why do we have to go through SHI International when you can get directly from
Right,
from
so
the company?
you're
You don't.
assuming that the better price is through Zoom directly versus through a cooperative or competitive pricing that the.
Well, that's a very generic remark. I mean, it's not supported by any data. If you could tell me that it was costing from Zoom this much and it's
So
costing
I
from
think
SHI that much, then I can understand,
Let me,
But
you seem to have this same question each time. You know what, at the next operations committee, maybe we can explain exactly how we do this process of finding prices so that we can be clear about how you guys get the
Yeah, sure.
lowest price.
Yeah, we can go through that in operations, Naresh.
Yeah, I think that would be a good
A
idea.
lot of times companies don't sell this particular product direct. You have to go through a reseller, and Software House International is like a reseller to nonprofits.
Yeah, they're generally very good with their rates. So.
All right, so we can go through it in operations. I think it's a better discussion for then.
Well, I saw it only today, just an hour before the meeting. So anyway, that's all right.
okay.
I just wanted to make a point here,
Yep, understood. Go ahead, Greg.
Just a quick question on D10. I'm assuming that with the number of students taking the test and how they would have to be dispersed and how many supervisors, that's all been taken into account in being able to run that testing.
That's the PSAT.
Can you just repeat your question that, in terms of how we're facilitating it? Yes.
I'm assuming that with this proposal, it's been figured out how this is all going to be.
And actually, just so the
managed.
board's aware, is what we're doing on that day is, so we'll basically have half the building here, but it won't be one of the cohorts. It'll be the 10th and 11th graders that will be here to take the test, and the 9th and the 12th graders will be virtual. But Mr. Gillespie, our very talented testing coordinator, has been working on this for the past nearly month already. So yes, thank you.
Yep, thanks.
I have one more question regarding item D1, the Fund 60, VCH food service for the month of August, $36,732. So I'm just wondering what kind of food service was that in the month of August?
Did you catch that?
Food service? He's asking about the food service.
Item
General
D1, Fund
operating
60.
account, you have your payment out of Fund 60, $36,000. I don't know. Tim,
Is that
if you-
for Pumptonian?
That's for food service, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
Pomptonian.
Pumptonian, we were catching up at that point in the rush. That's from the spring.
Oh, I see.
We had been in negotiations with them over the spring, so we finally kind of caught up.
Okay.
Bob?
I just wanted to comment on D12 and D13 for the generous donation from our incoming junior, Johannes Wellerding, for the 300 surgical mask straps and extenders, as well as the donation of 200 shields and mask frames from incoming junior Aaron Binstock. I think it's great that they did that in support of the school.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the D items that have been moved? Okay, roll call, please, Mr. Seiss.
Dr. Chan?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. Hayek?
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Mrs. Ober?
Yes.
Ms. Potter?
Yes.
Dr. Shabilsky?
Yes.
Ms. Raban?
I abstain from D13, yes to everything else.
And Ms. Barone?
Yes.
Okay, motion's carried.
Okay, now we are at the second opportunity for public comment. I don't have any more emails. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to come up to the podium or the microphone again?
I'm Charlie Margulies from Watchung, and I would just like to note that there seems as though the teachers may not have fully understood the situation as to the timeline for clubs to be approved. The board may not have completely understood the balance between the value of competitions and the value of the club experience, and the students may not have fully understood that their clubs would be continuing this year. I just ask that as you consider clubs, that you consider the value of the club experience regardless of external governing bodies with regards to non-health related recommendations, understanding that many clubs provide a valuable experience even if the governing body cancels or modifies events, and that you guys continue to make sure that there's consistent and clear information as to the timeline for the approval of co-curricular activities. I apologize for the misunderstanding that clubs would be canceled on the part of the community, including myself, but we can all use this as an opportunity to think more critically as we read online information. The marching band situation is one that is clear that there was a game of telephone taking place. From the comments I heard parts of what I had communicated to students in my section, parts of people's opinions, and parts of what had been communicated to me by the director, but none of the complete situation as Dr. Jewett clarified tonight. We can all do a better job to be more clear in the future. On a similar note, to those of you that sent emails, if it is safe to do so, I would recommend coming to these meetings. It is really easy to sit behind a computer and send an email and say whatever you want, but it takes a lot more courage to come to the board meeting and speak in person. It will also force you to think about what the board is saying and voice a more nuanced and educated opinion. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other people coming up for a second opportunity for public comment, so I'm going to close public comment. And other business?
I have one.
Yes.
I wanted to congratulate the National Merit semifinalists, of which we have one in our audience. I I actually had a second one, which is that Dr. Jewett had mentioned that Mr. Sabino and the guidance staff had offered the ACT this past Saturday. What you didn't mention is that it was offered exclusively for Watchung Hills seniors, which was huge. It has been such, I'm a parent of a senior, and it's been a really frustrating and very disappointing college prep season with all of the standardized tests being canceled and rescheduled and canceled in last minute. And having that was such a huge boost and really a gift to our seniors. And I want to thank them publicly because it was really fabulous.
Thank you. Any other business? I just wanted to say we probably should get the strategic plan sort of back on the agenda at some point.
Oh, actually, I can give you an update that we did set up, now that we started school and we could actually talk about something else besides the reopening plan during the day. I actually just had a conversation with Dr. Ferguson yesterday, and we scheduled 2 meetings for the strategic plan core team in the next 2 weeks.
Great.
So that we can go through what the board had discussed and start working on those foundational documents to bring back to the board. So
Great.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Great. All right, so any other business? We were going to go back into exec, so I need a motion. And we do not expect any action after the executive session.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss the superintendent's review. The results will be made public when the need for confidentiality may no longer arise, and action will not be taken on our return.
And then a legal matter.
And we have a legal matter.
Oh, and legal matters, I'm sorry.
We have a legal matter.
And PSA negotiation?
And did you say
And
person?
PSA negotiations.
And personnel, did we say personnel?
And personnel.
Throw it all.
PSA negotiations, personnel, and the kitchen sink.
Thank you. We need a second, please. Somebody second it?
Second.
Thank you.
Aye.
Peter,
All
you
those
need
in
to change your
favor?
appointment for tomorrow.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We're going to need to clear the room again.